Welcome back to the CPA Firm Partners Conference here located in Toronto. We got some special guests from the US that are here as well. And we're going to talk to them soon. Just going to give people just a moment to just come on to this platform. Hopefully you've had a good chance to check out some of the areas as well. The expo, the networking's open, sessions are open as well. So we're really excited to have the event here. And I want to introduce our next speakers here. So one at a time, we'll go through and perhaps you can introduce yourselves and a little bit about what you do. So Brannon Poe is CPA and founder of Poe Group Advisors. Brannon, why don't you start and talk a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, so I am a CPA. I started my career at Ernst & Young and started selling CPA firms in 2003. We're headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina, and we sell firms all over North America. Darryl Boyd and Carrie, they head up the group out of the Toronto area. And we sell mostly firms under 5 million is our sort of sweet spot. And we also offer a practice management coaching program called Accounting Practice Academy.
Terrific. And Darryl Boyd, regional market leader with Poe Group Advisors. And Darryl, you're located in Toronto?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. And we're here in Toronto. And as Brannon said, we're helping sellers sell their firms here and helping buyers. We take a really personal approach with that. And so with the increased interest in cloud firms, we thought we would have a session about that.
Excellent. And we'll talk about just generally what's happening in with purchase and sales, right? Carrie Mulrooney is accounting practice intermediary with Poe Group Advisors as well. Welcome, Carrie, and thanks for being here. And perhaps you can give a little bit about yourself as well, a little bit of information.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everybody. So I've been in the industry for over 25 years in the accounting and bookkeeping world. And I ran my own practice for 21 years. And about 3 to 4 years before we sold, we did a large conversion from very bricks and mortar, lots of paper, lots of filing cabinets to the cloud. And when we sold through Poe and had such a great experience. And now I'm enjoying working alongside with the team here and brokering the sales of accounting and bookkeeping practices.
Excellent. So why don't we start with you, Carrie? Maybe you can talk about the conversion, the process, maybe some tips that somebody can take away from doing it and how it maybe have helped you maybe get more for your firm.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when we did our cloud conversion, we weren't at that point where we were thinking of selling. So it just happened to be a good thing that we did it. I think at one point through this discussion, I'm going to go into a little bit more details about the logistics of a conversion and what's all needed. But all I will say is that give yourself time, be organized, have the right people in place to be able to do the conversions. I think that's really, really key.
Okay, great. And so maybe for Darryl, for this one, or Brannon, maybe perhaps, what exactly is a cloud firm and how is it different from your typical CPA or accounting firm?
Yeah, I'll take that question. So, I feel like in some ways, a lot of firms are on some sort of continuum as to whether they're traditional on the one side of the continuum or full cloud on the other. And so we see a lot of hybrid firms. But for me, when I go to sell a cloud firm, I think of if you've got cloud-based applications, like if you're running QuickBooks Online or Xero, and all of your applications are cloud-based, if you've got a portal where most of the communication or the documents come in from your client through a portal, and you're able to service your clients from anywhere, that is a cloud firm. Now, if you have a brick and mortar office, because you just want to have an office and you want to have your team under one roof, you can still be a cloud firm if you're serving people virtually. So that's kind of a quick and easy way to define it. But you do see there's always some sort of hybrid in there because it's very rare that a full cloud firm is not going to have some clients that they meet in person. It's just a natural, some clients want to meet, but we've seen firms that will get into a particular niche or niche, and they'll serve clients from a very large geography. I think our firm, Poe Group Advisors, is essentially a cloud-based sort of business because we serve clients all over North America. However, I have an office and we have a small team that works in the office, but we also have people who are remote. Now, we are seeing a number of firms that are what we call 100% cloud, where the team is absolutely remote. Like Carrie's firm, I think you guys had a team all over Canada.
Yeah.
So that's kind of full cloud, but those are probably more rare than just your cloud firms with an office.
So what you mentioned about cloud and people working remotely. How does that differ between a paperless office versus cloud? Like, what are there similarities? Are there differences? Like, where's the line, or is it all kind of one and the same? And cloud is cloud, and paperless, and everything's all out there somewhere.
I can take that if you want, Brandon. Okay. So yeah, for example, a traditional, which we call like a bricks and mortar firm, is going to have all of their paper, all their documents and everything held within the office. So clients would come, visit, drop paperwork off. It would be worked on, tax files and things like that. In a cloud firm, you're using all the applications to load all the documents into your cloud system. So your cloud, whether you're using QuickBooks Online, you're using Receipt Bank or HubDoc or anything like that. So everything is housed in the cloud and through those applications. So there's nothing literally sitting on your desk anymore. There's no piece of paper. You're doing everything right virtually on your computer and in the applications.
So how does it cloud, all things being equal? I know people will ask this question, what's the, how does it impact the valuation? How much I can get if I'm selling my firm? Is there just a general rule of thumb, like, it's X dollars for a paperless and X plus something for a firm that's in the cloud percent? Any kind of rules of thumb that somebody can take away from today's webinar?
Yeah, for sure. I can take that if you guys are okay. When I'm talking to anybody that's selling, one of the things that's always important, kind of like real estate, is location. So a practice in a metro area is going to be worth more than a practice in a rural area because there are more buyers there. When you're looking at a cloud firm, you're somewhat location agnostic. So in Canada, for example, the practice could be in Toronto, it could be in Sudbury, it could be in Saskatoon. So your buyer pool is national, or in some cases even international. So you can get a higher price for your firm in a metro area because there are more buyers. Well, now you've got a whole country. So what we've really noticed is the demand for these. We've got a big buyer pool, so it can drive up your price somewhat. I'd also say, and this kind of relating to what Carrie and Brannon were talking about with what constitutes a cloud firm, is that there are certain common points with a cloud firm that help it become valuable to buyers. For example, pricing structure. So the way a cloud firm typically prices their services, they're not usually, not always, but they're not usually billing by the hour. They have package pricing. They have a subscription base, so they're getting paid ahead of time. Well, anybody who knows an accounting firm knows, and especially if you've got a big accounts receivable, that to get paid before you're actually doing the work is a great thing. So somebody buying a firm like that, they know they've got instant cash flow. So those are just a couple points. And Carrie and Sean, I'm sure you can, and Brandon, add a few of that.
That's
yeah.
Okay. Oh,
go ahead, Carrie. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that was very valuable to us, and I can see being valuable to anybody purchasing a cloud practice is it broadens your talent pool. So basically you can hire, Mark, you were just talking about this in your introduction earlier about being able to hire across Canada or nationally or internationally or however you're structured, and having that talent there. You're not just hiring like within your city limits and things like that, where you're limited to, what talent is out there. So I think that that's very, very valuable.
Yeah, I would say one observation I've had with cloud firms is they tend to scale faster. So I've run across a lot of firms, we'll get the practice information when we first see the firm profile, and it's amazing how the revenue growth has been so accelerated. One of the things that being in the cloud allows a firm to do is focus on a particular industry or a handful of industries. And then you develop that expertise in that particular segment and you become more desirable. I mean, back to our firm, we specialize in brokerage, but we don't just specialize. I mean, we only specialize in CPA firms. We're not doing general brokerage. So if a CPA talks to us, they're going to realize our knowledge base, our network is very deep in that industry, and it's no different for people who are operating cloud firms. We've seen some really niche practices, and so I think those are the two things that are different. The other thing I've noticed about cloud firm owners, they tend to have more entrepreneurial mindsets. So this, to me, I feel like the industry is going this way very rapidly. It'll be interesting to see in 5 years from now if this, what we're talking about today, is sort of the norm versus the other way around. So just a couple of observations about firms there. It's an exciting aspect of the industry. It's the technology is moving so rapidly as well. You have all of these really cool applications where clients, from a client service perspective, the client can manage their finances on their phones. You know, literally, we had I did a podcast with a guy that had a cloud firm in the Atlanta, Georgia market, and they had a lot of professional athletes in their client roster. And they had bill.com, so they could pay their bills from their phone. They swipe. They really didn't have to look after their accounting in any other way. So from a client service perspective, the apps are really attractive for that experience.
So what do you, I mean, I've been in offices where they literally still have, a room of those files and client files, hard copy and so on. And, some of these CPAs are, 60, 65, 70 plus years old. What would you, maybe take one or two tips just to spend a couple of minutes? Like, what should they do? Should they get a consultant? Should they get a project manager? Like, who would be the best person to kind of navigate them to get to that point, to move to the cloud?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So maybe I can go into a little bit of the logistical piece of what's all involved in creating a cloud or doing a conversion to a cloud, or even just starting up a cloud practice. So I've kind of broken it down over time, and with the experience that I went through with my own practice and doing consulting and helping other companies with their cloud conversions. And there's really three main components to it. And as I mentioned before, is like having the right people and so on in place. So I think the first component is really taking a look at, okay, what is it that we want to do here? What is our cloud stack, tech stack need to be? And determine your client base. So, fundamentally, there's four main things that you're going to need to do to go full cloud. You're going to need your accounting base, your system, which is going to be your QBO, your Xero, your Sage, or whatever that might be online. You're going to need to look at how are we going to get the documents into the system? How are we going to, get receipts in there, and so on. So you're going to look at, okay, what applications can we use for that? Like, for example, Receipt, Bank, well, is now Dext, but HubDoc and things like that. Then you're going to want to look at, okay, we got to do payroll here. So now we need a payroll platform. Are we going to be using, ADP or WagePoint or anything like that? As well as your payment solutions. And Brandon, you just touched on this earlier about the bill payments. So, like using, the Pluto or anything like that, where you can automatically transfer funds. And, when you're in cloud, you're not going to be signing checks. Checks don't exist anymore. So you need to have those options. So you really need to hone in on what your tech stack is going to be, determine what your client's needs are, and then figure out your pricing. Is it going to be firm pricing? Like, is the firm going to pay for it, or is the client paying for this, and so on. Once you've established all that, then you're going to want to look at the next component, which is your client, your pre-conversion. What do we need to do to get these conversions going? So you're going to need to set up all of those applications within your internal offices or within your systems. You're going to need to have somebody who knows how to do that. And this is why I'm talking about having that particular person who understands the applications, who's very tech savvy, who's likely, has done all the training on them, is using them, and also is certified in them. And you're going to want to then figure out your internal process. How are we going to do these conversions? When are we going to do them? How many are we doing? And what clients are we doing first? And like, are we doing, certain specialists at first, or how is that going to happen? And as well as arranging training for the rest of the staff and everybody who's using the applications, which is really, really key. That was the area that, we kind of learned a little bit afterwards. We said, hey, we're going to do this great conversion to the cloud, and then went, okay, but everybody has to know how to do this. So when everybody's busy in their jobs and they're doing, files all day long and their days are packed, they don't have time to do this. So you really need to set aside time, have a great plan in place, and create those milestones for that. And then the third component is going to be your client conversion stage. So that's literally doing the conversions to the tech stack. So that's going to take time. And some clients have larger files than others, some don't. So are you going to do those simple ones first, or are you going to leave the bigger ones to last from a timing standpoint? And then you're going to need to, once the conversions are done, you're going to have to provide some type of training or some type of learning component for those clients. Some clients do their own invoicing. Some clients like to post their receivables and things like that, or do their bank reconciliation. So they're going to need to learn how to use these systems. So you have to figure out within your practice, how are we going to do that? Is that going to come from third-party links and training manuals and things like that, or are your staff going to literally be training these people? So there's a lot involved. That's just very high level, but coming from doing it myself, and as well as seeing many practices shift to the cloud, that's like the three main components that I see as being very, very, very important.
Excellent. My name is Mark Belache. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I'm here with Brannon Poe, CPA founder of Poe Group Advisors. Darryl Boyd is regional market leader with Poe Group Advisors, and Carrie Mulrooney is accounting practice intermediary also with Poe Group Advisors. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat. Happy to moderate them. We only have about 10 minutes left here. So another question for the panel here is, how is selling or buying a cloud firm different from one of your typical practice listings? When you sell it, do you put a little flag next to it to say cloud? How does that go about? What do buyers see? What do sellers see, and so on?
Yeah, we actually have a whole separate section for cloud firms on our website. So when you go to view our listings, you'll see very clearly that we have those separate. They're also located where they're headquartered. So if you're looking at listings, for example, in Toronto, you'll see that they are cloud if you're not in the cloud section where they're sorted that way. But as far as the first part of your question, like how is it different? I don't think it's that different. I think you do have a buyer pool from a larger geography. But other than that, I can't think of any specific differences. Darryl, can you think of anything?
Yeah, what's funny, because we sell a lot of CPA firms, and sometimes you'll be talking to somebody who's not a CPA and they want to buy a CPA firm. Now, obviously they can't because they're not a CPA. What I find happens with some of these cloud firms, particularly the bookkeeping ones or the accounting and tax firms when they aren't specifically a CPA firm, is that you have, instead of having one ideal buyer, you have three. So you have, say it's a bookkeeping firm, you do have CPA firms that might want to buy that firm and kind of move in the cloud direction if they're not already. You have existing cloud firms that want to increase their market share, so they're looking to pick up clients. And then you have this other group of individuals that want to sort of more invest in a business in general. They're not necessarily accountants, but they either have access to staff. And this is a way that they can kind of get into the industry. So in addition to having this huge geography, you have a bigger buyer pool. You can kind of start to see how these things kind of work together to give the reason why there's so much demand for these kind of firms. So that's something that I've noticed it's different too. You can literally talk to anybody who's coming in who could potentially be interested. The buyer pool is larger. Yeah.
One thing I'll add is I've had a couple of buyers that already have a established CPA firm, a traditional one, and they want to buy a cloud firm so that the model, they don't have to invent the model, it's already created. And then they can begin to convert their existing practice on what's already built in the cloud. So, it kind of simplifies some of the things that Carrie was saying, is that is already determined. There's already a working cloud systems in place, which can kind of ease the transition. So the transition, as Carrie was talking about, it's not an easy transition. It's, if you think about how this all happens, I tell people it's like, well, how do you load your dishwasher, at night after you do the dishes? You do it one dish at a time. There's no way to quickly do that. And it has to be one at a time. And converting to the cloud is kind of similar because you have to do it one client at a time per conversion. And every employee, every staff member has to be trained one at a time. So it's a very tedious process. It takes a lot of, it takes somebody to really champion that conversion. It's not for the faint of heart. So buying a firm can simplify that.
Do you find that COVID's helped a little bit with that, maybe in the sense that a lot of people had to kind of go remote? And so, because you talk to people that think, oh, my clients would never do all this online, but they were suddenly forced to.
I think it has, just from experience with being with Poe and working through many, transactions with buyers and sellers is, before COVID was in place or the pandemic and people were kind of forced to go remotely, sellers weren't as open. If they were very traditionally based, they weren't as open to somebody coming in and wanting to convert them to the cloud and being like, oh, well, what if your clients, can we work remotely and things like that? Now, a lot of the sellers are very open to that. They're like, oh, well, we've already been doing it, or we had to do it kind of halfway. So I definitely think that's helped. And I do see a lot of the potential for a lot of these firms that are being purchased that, if they were partially there because of COVID, they'll definitely be there in the very near future. For sure.
And what's the market like in Canada right now? Are there more buyers, more sellers? Is it somewhat balanced, like for these firms?
Well, we have a.
Yeah, I was going to say, Darryl, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. There are a lot of really good quality buyers out there, but we just don't have enough firms for them all. We don't push anybody to sell. We want to make sure somebody's ready, and so there are lots of sellers selling. But there's a much bigger buyer pool. And Carrie, you could speak to this a little bit as well, because I know you're talking to them a lot. But yeah, it's pretty busy. There are a lot of buyers. If a seller has a cloud firm, if it's a good firm, they'll have no problem selling it in this market. We work, they want to find the right fit. We're really big on that fit. But yeah, there are lots of buyers. Carrie, do you want to?
Yeah. Our cloud firms, once they're listed and marketed, they go very fast. It's a very fast and very heavy process because we have a lot of buyers, a lot of interested buyers. And if buyers have missed out, you can only pick one buyer, right? So if buyers have missed out on other cloud practices and they really want one, they're going to keep applying for it and working towards it. So, so the conversations we have more often is, if you're interested in this, don't wait too long because it's probably going to go very fast, right? So, and they will, sometimes we can get them. We've had cloud firms where we've had them into contract from listing, from coming on board, listing into contract within like a 2-week period. So it can go very fast.
Wow. Really good. It sounds like residential real estate these days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Too much time. Well, that's great. I'm sure we could go on a lot longer. PoGroupAdvisors.com is the website. Lots of listings on there. Sounds like if you're looking to sell, great time to be selling. But you guys are looking for buyers or sellers. So how should people reach out to you?
Yeah, the easiest way is just go to the website, PoGroupAdvisors.com. You can register to get alerts for practices that come on the market. If you want to sell, we have a lot of great content on the website. We like to start a relationship with people that want to sell a long time before they're actually ready. So even if you're 3, 5, heck, even 10 years out, you want to sell, we're happy to have a conversation with you. You can also check out our virtual practice management workshop at accountingpracticeacademy.com. That's a great way to get your your practice ready for market. If you're thinking about selling for 3-5 years, I think that's probably the best way to find us. We're all on LinkedIn, so you can reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn as well.
Great. And there's lots of great information on the website about buying and selling. There's a blog, lots of great resources there as well. So definitely, if you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to the team. They're experts in it, been doing it for a long time. And want to thank you, the three of you, for coming on here today as well. I just want to let everybody know about what's upcoming. Francisco Ramolino in 5 minutes, licensed insolvency trustee. We'll be talking about dealing with debt post-pandemic insolvency as a path to financial recovery. And then I'll be on in just over half an hour with a panel. I'll introduce them at that time, but that will run from 3:30 to 4 o'clock Eastern time. And lots of great networking. Make sure to check out the expo. And of course, I want to thank the three of you for being here and sharing your wisdom. And don't forget to reach out to Brannon, Darryl, and or Carrie. And thanks very much to the three of you for being on here, and wish you the best and stay safe as always.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.